Acting Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoğlu is expected to start his tour of party leaders for talks on a coalition government this week following a general election in which no single party got enough votes to form a government. A coalition between the ruling party and the Nationalist Movement Party, MHP, or an early election seem to be emerging as the most probable scenarios. In a way to send a message to the MHP as a potential coalition partner, a leading government figure said over the weekend that the settlement process launched to resolve Turkey's Kurdish issue might be revised. Some revisions might be carried out in the process. The naming of it could be changed and so on, Deputy Prime Minister Numan Kurtulmuş told the Milliyet Daily on Saturday. The definitive suspension of the settlement process, which the Nationalist Party labels as treason, is among the sine qua nons most recently expressed by the MHP to join a coalition government. After receiving a mandate to form a government from the president early next week, Davutoğlu, as head of the party with the highest number of deputies in parliament, is expected to begin to visit party leaders for coalition talks. Dries Gullis, the Minister of Environment and Urban Planning, said on Saturday that talks for a coalition government could begin on Tuesday. In response to a question about efforts for a coalition during a visit to Konya province, the minister told reporters that President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan would most probably on Tuesday assign Davutoğlu to form a government. In the election on June 7, in which the ruling Justice and Development Party, AK Party, lost its parliamentary majority for the first time since coming to power in 2002, no single party got enough votes to form a government. Acting Prime Minister Davutoğlu once again highlighted, during an interview on Konya's Kon TV, the MHP and the main opposition party as potential partners in a coalition, while revealing he does not consider the pro-Kurdish People's Democratic Party, HDP, as a potential partner. We don't see a coalition with the HDP as feasible at this stage. They have also expressed their attitude in such a strongly negative way that I don't believe they would be willing to be part of a coalition, Davutoğlu said in the interview late on Friday. Regarding the right-wing MHP and the main opposition Republican People's Party, CHP, Davutoğlu added, "We will have a talk with both and try to do the best within what is possible." Underlining that he would all the same visit HDP officials for coalition talks to get their views, Davutoğlu said, "We will God willing start talks next week." Following the election, the HDP, which was accused by the AK party all through the election campaign of being linked with terrorism, declared that it would not join forces with the AK party in a coalition. However, the HDP changed, around 10 days after the election, its discourse regarding a coalition following a statement by a leading figure of the outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party, PKK, saying it was an irrational attitude to eliminate some parties as possible coalition partners. "Our door is open to all the parties," HDP CO chair Selahattin Demirtas said at the time, while calling on Davutoğlu to stop using dismissive and accusing language towards the HDP. The PKK, which has waged a bloody war against Turkey since 1984, is recognized as a terrorist organization by Turkey, the US and the EU. Generally speaking, a total of 276 seats, representing an absolute majority in the 550-seat parliament, are required to form a government. The AK party and the CHP have 258 and 132 deputies, respectively, while the MHP and the HDP each has 80 deputies. In the interview, Davutoğlu also implied that some AK party figures might have already been unofficially in talks for a coalition with opposition party representatives. "I didn't say to any colleague to conduct negotiations on our behalf. But it is natural if a colleague of ours has a talk about a potential coalition with a friend of his in another party. Nobody's building a wall. Such talks are not talks officially conducted under instructions," he said. After failing to get its candidate for Speaker of Parliament elected due to the failure of the three opposition parties represented in Parliament to cooperate against the ruling party candidate, the main opposition CHP may be called to forging a coalition with the AK party. According to the Haberturk Daily, CHP leader Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu considers an early election as a strong possibility. A report in the Daily on Sunday, which is based on anonymous sources, quoted Kılıçdaroğlu as saying in a meeting with leading officials of the party, "It is a slim possibility that we would forge a coalition with the AKP." Opposition's version of saying AK party. An AKP-MHP coalition is not easy, either. There is a strong possibility of an early election. Both the CHP and the MHP have a number of prerequisites and red lines difficult for the AK party to agree to observe, such as calling to account of those accused of corruption, for being part of a coalition government. In a speech in his party's parliamentary group meeting last week before Parliament began voting to elect the Speaker, MHP leader Devlet Bahçeli did not rule out the option of his party becoming a coalition partner, but laid out three preconditions for which, he stressed, the MHP demands the full respect of a potential coalition partner. The preconditions laid out by Bahçeli are, the definitive suspension of the settlement process, the relaunch of the corruption investigation about suspects implicated in a probe that went public on December 17 and 25, 2013, and the restriction of President Erdogan's use of power to within constitutional limits. The CHP has for its part recently enumerated a list of 14 principles, which include those of the MHPs other than the one about the settlement process, as prerequisites for being a coalition partner. In remarks to a columnist of the same daily, Kurtulmuş also said the people would not accept the termination of the process, maintaining that 48% of those who voted for the MHP in the recent general election also support the process. MHP Deputy Chairman Celal Adan has criticized the CHP and the HDP for legitimizing the president's intervention into politics by unnecessarily having talks with Erdogan at the presidential palace following the election. In response to the CHP's criticism towards the MHP for not voting for the CHP candidate for the parliament speaker, Adan said in a written statement on Sunday, the CHP should first answer on what grounds they did not support MHP candidate for Speaker Mr. Ekmel İnsanoğlu, and what their candidate for Speaker talked about with the President behind closed doors. The CHP candidate for Speaker paid an unexpected visit to Erdogan shortly after the election. It also recently turned out that Celal Doğan, an HDP deputy, had a talk with the President at the presidential palace on Monday, a day before voting began for Parliament Speaker. Doğan, who confirmed the meeting in a statement to the Haberturk Daily on Sunday, said Erdogan told him that he would call for a snap election should parties fail to forge a coalition. Thanks to these parties, the post of president has turned into a kingdom of Besp, Adan said. Besp is the name of the neighborhood where the presidential palace in Ankara is located. Speaking during a fast-breaking dinner on Friday, Erdogan said he does not think that a minority government would address Turkey's serious problems, once again raising the prospect of a snap election. The MHP, which argues that the process would lead to the disintegration of the country, may have toned down its opposition to the process ahead of the start of the official coalition talks, as the party's earlier demand was the termination rather than the suspension of the process. The Hürriyet Daily claimed on Friday that the AK party and the MHP had almost reached an agreement for a coalition government, including a consensus on how the cabinet ministries would be shared.